feel like becoming a mom when you really love being super high functioning, having a lot on a lot of different burners, that can still be you at your core, right? But it forces such a ruthless prioritization.
Welcome to This Is a Lot, Sarah Elizabeth. We have you here today. I'm so excited for you to be on. Sarah Elizabeth Graham is the head of communications and events at Patreon. Is a former Twitter exec, current mom, wife. I've personally known you for several years and have loved watching you grow as a mom and with yourself and your spouse, obviously. And then also, you've just been like such a kick-ass businesswoman. Watching you at Twitter and like literally travel all around the world has been so much fun. So thank you for coming on today. You were one of the first people in the back of my mind when we started this podcast. And I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Let's just kind of kick it off. So you have had a really cool journey. Give us your elevator pitch, but also take us back to the beginning. Kind of tell us about what was the road to where you are now.
Early on in my career, I wanted to be in journalism, fashion and kind of luxury lifestyle journalism specifically. I used my college summers to do internships. I was really fortunate to kind of ping pong between LA and New York and work at Condé Nast and Vogue and Women's Wear Daily. And anyways, I was really kind of obsessed and very laser focused on what I wanted my career to look like post grad. Moved to New York right after we graduated, which was great. Was working at WSJ and Penske Media at the time. And anyways, I think what my first experience in like the real working world, right? Like as a full-time employee, not as an intern, really exposed me to the inner workings of the culture of, I would say, fashion and magazine and editorial style. And really what I learned very quickly was I love storytelling. I love solving problems. I love connecting the dots. But I really, really thrive depending upon the environment that I'm in. And look, like editorial and fashion journalism is tough. Like it is mean girl culture personified. And I really kind of stuck out like a sore thumb. But at the same time, I was like, so really? Like this is it? Like I'm giving up on this whole dream. What am I going to do? Ended up staying in New York and shifting gears like pretty hard. I knew that I wanted to continue to tell stories, solve problems creatively, but I had a PR and journalism degree. I like wasn't exactly like the most qualified candidate in any other field. Was really, really fortunate to get a job as a consultant at Ernst& Young. And I really used that as my crash course into business. I was like, I could either go back and get my MBA or I could just like try to figure this out on my own. And that's really what EY was for me. I joke and tell people all the time that was the year or two that I spent just learning how to be employable, how to meet deadlines and stay organized and manage stakeholders and use all the fancy buzzwords that everybody uses in business. And then it just exposed me, I would say, to the actual problems that businesses face at scale, right? And like how to manage executives, manage a larger workforce, bring people along. So it still kind of allowed me to flex that storytelling and comms and creative problem solving skill, but again, how to actually be a businesswoman at the same time. So that's kind of like where that career pivot came from. And then I was also got engaged during that time. He was in Pittsburgh at the time. I was in New York. He got a job offer in either San Francisco or Atlanta. And we were like, gosh, feels like Atlanta's like where we're going to end up, but we're not ready to get there yet. So like, let's do San Francisco. I was really fortunate because EY is such a big company that you can kind of transfer offices pretty easily. And that's what sent us both out there. We were there for a little over 7 years. And then, I mean, as I think happens to most folks that live in the Bay Area for any period of time, like it's just something in the air, the water that you get the itch of like, you have to join a tech company. And that's when I pretty quickly, like I think within 6 months of moving there, pivoted and joined Twitter. It was kind of the perfect, again, role for me at the time. A job that you don't know exists when you were in college. It was really like building their internal communications function from the ground up. So again, I really thought of Twitter as like this perfect like melting pot crucible of all of my worlds colliding. When I was in journalism, it was the platform where you broke the news, you got the sources. And then my role specifically was around managing executives, bringing along the workforce through really difficult problems, transformation, M&A deals, hirings, firings, all of that good stuff. So it's still kind of that storytelling angle, but again, at this company that it was so important to, my previous world as well. So that was kind of what I would say got me to where I am today. All of those kind of series of false starts.
I love that. So you get married in San Francisco, and
Yeah.
then you have a beautiful baby daughter, and you guys moved to now back kind of to Atlanta. You're from West Virginia, right?
I'm from Virginia. So grew up, well, that's actually a complicated question. I'm a military brat. So I was born in New Jersey, which breaks my Southern Alabama mama's heart. But born in New Jersey, moved to England, Louisiana, South Carolina, Georgia, and then Virginia. I am kind of a chameleon that like depends on who I'm talking to. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm from South Carolina or I'm from so and so. But like really and truly, I claim Virginia. That's where I spent middle school and high school years.
I wish that I would have Davis and I would have like went and lived somewhere else than like where we're ending up. Like, how did you and your husband decide to move back to Atlanta or like closer to family?
I mean, we had right. So, I mean, interestingly enough, like trying to make this a long story short, but we were moved to San Francisco before we got married. We were there for a little over 7.5 years. Basically, right, well, I guess on the tail end of that, COVID happened and the pandemic. That was 2020. We temporarily moved back to like, not even moved. We just like packed a suitcase and went to my in laws for what we thought was going to be like a fun 2 weeks. That turned into far longer than that. And we ended up being on the East Coast that year of 2020 for like 9 months out of the whole year, which is a whole nother story. We then were like, gosh, this is kind of another moment of like pressure testing. Do we really want to be an SF or do we want to move back? Like, what's the deal? And at the top of 2021, we were like, no, we're not done with our story and our time in San Francisco. We moved back there full time and but we knew like we were also kind of ready to start the next chapter and have a kid and all of that. And to do that in a city, we were like, okay, we need to find a bigger place. We need to have parking. We need to like also try to like optimize our life in San Francisco so we don't immediately move as soon as she gets here. And so we did that. We found a 3-bedroom apartment, which again in the city is kind of crazy. It was in the exact area we wanted. We had parking. It was across the street from a dog park, the kids park, the library. I mean, if there was a setup to have a child in San Francisco without, your immediate kind of family there. We had it and we built it and we were so excited. I knew what daycare she was going to go to after paternity leave. And then quite literally, like within, I don't know, 2 months of having her, I was like, nope, gotta go, pack the bags, move back to Atlanta. There's just something, again, speaking the choir here, but being multiple flight trains, planes, and automobiles is how it felt for our family to get to us in San Francisco. About bringing another life into this world without your people kind of right there, even though we had a lovely community that feels like insurmountable to a first time mama.
I mean, I think like what you said of just like having your people, I think is so different. And I know like you're around friends that you've now been friends with for decades. Like there's something about just having people that have known you through multiple lives around that you can like be your most authentic and like raw, I guess is a good word for like motherhood. Like being able to be raw and not being like, oh, like I'm doing good. It's like that's so important to have people. So now you are obviously an executive at Patreon, which is a very cool company. Kind of tell us how did you get there from Twitter? I have so many questions I could ask about Twitter of what it was like in the heyday because you were like flying to Dubai and really cool places.
Yeah, Twitter was a once in a lifetime opportunity. Like what started as me joining to help them really effectively build the internal comms team from the ground up, which was really, really exciting. It was also doing communications in any capacity for the exec team there at a company that was moving at the pace of its platform, right? Like the news is Twitter. The news is breaking on Twitter. They're like the crisis comm skills that I learned, how to manage chaos, how to stay calm and collected, how to coach and advise executives on quite literally unprecedented challenges and policies and public perception. And, when you have a really noisy workforce too, like how do you keep them engaged? So anyways, like I would say Twitter just was the ultimate training ground for the type of work that I do. I laugh thinking about like, thank God I was in my is no kids, just full of the spice of life and had all of the free time in the world that I could really like fully lean in and like get the full juice from the squeeze of that experience. The last like big thing that I got to do, 19, ironically, is travel the world with our CEO, which was obviously again another kind of experience of a lifetime. So we went to all 30 offices around the world. The goal there was to really like meet and engage and with all of our employees in every country and every city to really understand like the problems that they were facing, both like internally, also in the market, their customers, et cetera. So it was just again a phenomenal opportunity and a pinch me experience for sure.
It's so interesting because, like, obviously I live in Alabama, and, like, people get married young, and people like, I got married at 26, which, like, felt even late compared to, like, some of our friends, and, like, people are having babies before 30, and, like, when you're in New York, when you're in San Francisco, when you're literally anywhere else, that is like a, like, infant bride, you know what I mean? Like, people don't believe that, and I even had friends I grew up in Wisconsin that were like, "You're so young." Like, they just didn't understand why you would ever get married before 30. So tell me a little bit about, obviously you are in one of the hottest companies at that time, right? And hottest tech companies. You're in San Francisco, which is still now like a booming city with tons of very high achieving people. How did you and your husband decide to have a baby?
I wish I had a better answer because I feel like Wright will hear this one day and be like, wow, mom, you didn't think about this more critically or like really, really want me? No, I did. It was very spur of the moment. I would say that I relate to a lot of what you said, Ellie. A few of my friends were starting to get pregnant at the time that were based back in the Southeast. Parker and I knew eventually, like in our minds, this was like 5 to 10 years away, that we would probably want to move back to Atlanta or somewhere kind of in the Southeast, if possible. And honestly, I think I was same sort of motivation, right? Like I don't want to feel like I'm getting left behind in like the pack. I don't want to be the only one that has a newborn when I'm 35 or 40 or whatever, which would have very much so been normal and great in San Francisco. But, I think there's like that keeping up with the Joneses mentality when you have your community and your people there. So I would say that we didn't put that much time and effort into it. There was not a lot of like critical thinking there. It was kind of just like following the motions of other people. And then, as you all know, like no takesy backsies. So here we are today. But I mean, like in all seriousness, we always knew that we wanted kids. We thought we wanted multiple kids, but you don't know what you don't know. It's like it cracks me up like talking with women now that like say, "Oh, I want X number of kids, X number or whatever," because everything changes when you go through that like first experience for right out of the gate. So yeah, not a great answer to that question honestly, but
No, I love
Great
it. And
question, though.
yeah, I mean, I was thinking about it the other day. We both have two, and like Cole was laughing the other day with the guest that just had the third, and she was like, "So let's talk about this third." Like, there is no critical. Like, I thought, like, oh my gosh, I have to have X amount of dollars in the bank saved, and
yeah.
like this has to be done, and all of that, and like I'm such a bullshitter. Like I look back and it's like I am just so full of crap sometimes. Like, like there just really doesn't have to be critical thinking. It is kind of like you're probably never fully ready.
Like the first step zero was there for us that we moved into a place where it would even be possible to bring more than Parker and myself into the equation. And then, this would have been 2021 at the time. And in San Francisco, like the world was still not back to normal in mid 2021 as it related to COVID. We like did a few trips to like Palm Springs and whatever, which again, at the time felt like such a luxury and like, wow, we're finally getting to travel again and do again. And I remember having this like moment of like, we talked about it, but like it was probably down the line. I was like, God, yeah, we need to like travel again. We need to experience things again. We've been living in this weird COVID bubble. And then honestly, I think it was like a few margaritas into Palm Springs. We're like, fine, let's give it a whirl. And next thing we know, 9 months later.
I love that. So talk to me a little bit about kind of how obviously like I feel like you've had a like big girl job for a while now. How do you manage that with being a mom? Tell us a little bit how you do it.
Yeah, I mean, I would say every day is like I think of a fresh start, right? So some days I do it really, really well, and other days not so much. I, like many of your guests, and it sounds like you all too, have had the luxury of being able to outsource as much as humanly possible. And I would say even just in the past, like maybe 6 months to a year alone, I feel like I've become, well, first of all, I feel like that's actually even when I started to outsource and my eyes were just like opened that, whoa, like when they say it takes a village, like that doesn't just mean with childcare or whatever. Like there's all of these other ways in which you can buy back your time and, whatever. So I feel like that is like this like phase that I'm in right now. Maybe even like I've like over rotated in what can I outsource, what can I whatever, because I am like our time is everything right now. Like it is the whole currency, which is really challenging also for me. I'm incredibly type A. I'm like the perfect like the meme where it's like it's not clean unless I cleaned it, like type of it. Like so like outsourcing, let's like getting over that hurdle was already a learning curve. Okay, I've got over that hurdle with like the cleaning, with the meal prep, with the cooking. And now yeah, but it's also like how do you outsource just enough that you still, maintain things in your life that you're not just like waking up in the morning, being a mom, going to work, doing the 9 to 5 thing, and then immediately becoming a mom again. Like, where is the space to just be Sarah Elizabeth? And I feel like I haven't quite cracked the code on that one. That's like the current dinner topic that Parker and I are like thinking through of like, okay, how can we each have an hour every other day to just do something for ourselves? And like, admittedly, like, again, I'm 3.5 years in and like, I have not figured that fully out yet. I think it's easy to be like, oh, put up better boundaries at work and block your calendar after work. But when you're a leader and other folks, you're responsible, and you're accountable, you're also a high performer. It's not that easy to just like shut the laptop and whatever.
I'd love to dig into like any advice you might have for someone facing that, because I think for high achieving people with plans like you're describing, like it's so hard to let go. Even if you know something's not the right path, just of a vision that you thought. And then Ellie saying, when you pictured this is my plan for children. And so I feel like that's a muscle that we have to learn to flex. And you clearly did it early on, so I imagine you have advice for that. And perhaps that was something that has served you since.
Gosh, this is like, that's such an excellent question and something that I feel like, again, I've become better about it, but it's, yeah, something that I'm still learning. But I think that a lot of this comes back to too my upbringing, right? So I was a military kid. We moved every 3 to 4 years until I got into high school. So change, adaptability, being able to jump in, build community really quickly, make friends. I actually like think I always thought I was an extrovert, but I was an extrovert because I had to be. Like it's the only way that I could survive in that type of an upbringing, even though I think I'm much more introverted at my core. So I think like on the one like side of the coin, I am good at that aspect of it. I am good at like change and pivoting. It's what makes me good at comms and managing other people and chaos. But I think it's the pressure that I then put on myself when it's my own personal goals, when it's this is what the ultimate, career path looks like for me. And then you're kind of like breaking up with this dream or this goal. It can feel heartbreaking, which sounds really like drama. But I mean, I remember like feeling that way when I decided I wanted to pivot away from, at the time, the big change was from journalism into the world of business. But also you have to like, as such a people pleaser, and I care so much what other people think of me. I think it's like obsessing with what are other people going to think about the fact that I'm breaking up with this dream, and how much of it is actually me just worried about that than it is about like what's going on inside of me. And so I think that's like constantly asking myself those two questions, and like, too, like we do OKRs at work, right? Objectives and key results. Like I try to do this personally for myself. Like it's like, great. I've always thought I wanted to have 2 kids. Right now, I'm in a phase where I feel pretty confidently that I think Wright's going to be an only child. Getting to that decision is something that I struggle with still to this day. I could change my mind at any point in time, but like it feels like the breakup of what the vision in my head and the family thing has always looked like. And yet it's like, why obsess over that when it's like, why am I feeling that way right now? Do I feel like my family's complete? Am I happy in the day to day? Yes, that I am. So like where is this pressure and anxiety coming from? So, I mean, I think my advice is just like trying to remind yourself that you are the only one that is setting these goals for yourself. So when you decide to pivot and to change, like that's okay. Like the roadmap changes.
Kind of just said it by accident, I think. But it's getting comfortable with the fact that nothing's ever going to feel so right. Like you can't just wait for it. Like you just said, like you're very certain, you're 99% sure. Like when are we ever 100% sure? And so I think like everything you just described, all these times, like you weren't like, I know for sure this is what I should be doing. It's just like, I'm going to take the jump, or I'm making this decision because it's something I need to just decide on. But I love like you've just done so much pivoting.
I just like want to double tap on that because it could be careers, it could be having babies, it could be moving. It's like everything that you talked about. It's just like it's probably never going to feel like the right time, right? Like I feel like I have turned down several offers for other opportunities, like with work. I've worked at the same company for 10 years, like just being like, no, no, like this is what I'm going to do. I'm locked in, or like it's never been the right time. And like recently, like I've had everything just align perfectly where it's like, okay, like I feel like God, the universe, like whatever you want to believe in is telling me like push, just being like, do it. And it's so hard though. Like if, especially like the deeper you get into no change, like I
Right.
do feel like it's Murphy's law of like an object in motion stays in motion. Like when you're used to like just like going and doing, and like I love that you said part of it was your background of like being being a military kid, of just being used to change and adapting. I just think it's so important. I just want to double tap on it and be like, I hope somebody listening is encouraged maybe to just be like, you know what, go for it.
I think
Oh,
too, like when I do change, it's like it's usually always comes in threes because I'm insane like that. And it's always self-inflicted, right? So like when we chose to move back to Atlanta, we just had Wright. So we had a 4 month old when we finally pulled the trigger. So I was just had a baby. We were moving across the country. Moving is like literally the most stressful thing that anyone could, everybody knows. Moving across the country with a baby. And I just decided to take a new job coming out like right back from maternity leave. So it was like three huge, like, groundbreakingly huge pivots in my life. And I remember at the time, it was just like one foot in front of the other. I think I was also having an identity crisis because I had just become a mom. I was like, what am I? I'm in San Francisco, I'm in Atlanta. And it was like, you know what? I just need to make a bunch of decisions. I need to make them quickly. And I'm going to start my new life in Atlanta with this new job. And it all worked out. But I think what that taught me is like a lot of this can be like self inflicted, and like stop inviting so much chaos in your life. And like, even when you say no to something, it's not right now. It's not no forever. It's not, down the line something can't change, but you have to like be really honest with yourself of like, what is your barometer for chaos and like change right now? And sometimes you can do it in all three. And other times it's like, nope, I have got way too many glass balls like already that I'm juggling right now. And if I add one more, they're all going to break. And like, as we know, that's actually not an option. So what are your glass balls, and how many can you actually keep in the air right now?
okay. So first of all, that is amazing. We have an episode that's launching tomorrow, and we talk about like what's a tennis ball and what's a glass ball, and like drop the tennis
Mhm.
ball, don't drop the glass ball. So I love that you said that because like it is so true. And like ever since we recorded that, Nicole, I've been like thinking about it. I'm like, what is this a tennis ball? Is this a golf ball? Okay, so what I would love to know is like Elizabeth today you moved to Atlanta, got a new job, became a mom all at once, like you said, in threes. How do you think today's Sarah Elizabeth, or even that Sarah Elizabeth when you moved, is different from San Francisco Twitter Sarah Elizabeth? How do those two people differ?
I feel like becoming a mom, when you really love being super high functioning, having a lot on a lot of different burners, like that can still be you at your core, right? But it forces such a like ruthless prioritization, like the least sexy term I can come up with, but it's so real. We all like have the same 24 hours in the day, but like not really, right? Like everybody's circumstance is so different. And so like what are the non-negotiables? And like becoming a mom, it becomes almost so primitive, like what makes it on that list. Like I need ideally 7 to 8 hours of sleep. Like how do I work backwards to make sure that happens? I need to try to at least get so many steps in the day. How do I build my calendar and my meetings so I can move in between? I need to like eat some vegetables because I haven't eaten a lot of like, vegetables lately. Like, how do I slot that in? So, I mean, I feel like even just the building of your list of what you can make time for and being really, really honest with yourself of like, yeah, I'm not going to make it to yoga or Pure Barre X number of times this week. And I'm okay with that trade off for this season of life right now because that's an extra hour of being with Right, and maybe I try to like just get outside with her and move my body that way. So it's just like you again, it's such a selfless like period of time, but yet when you're a working mom, it's not all selfless either. Like I enjoy going to work, right? Like I enjoy using my brain in a different way. But, it's a lot of time that I'm also choosing to invest outside of the home too. So, it's just being super, super honest with what's possible.
I love that pro tip too. Like, I feel like when you become, especially when you're someone that's a planner, when you become a mom, like you just said it, but you end up like almost reverse engineering your calendar. And it's a good tip that I wish I had early on. Like, I think before you have children, you just kind of look at your day and you're like, okay, I'm going to wake up at this time. This is my gym class. This is my this. But when you become a mom, you have to like build the day backwards. You have to like put in the things that have to happen. And then you reverse engineer, like, what are the things I need to put in? And the way that you presented it is like the perfect way. And that's all you can do is say, like, I want to drink this much water. I want to take this many steps. Like, I'm just going to like try to fit this in somewhere. And it's the only way to go because otherwise you just feel every day just discouraged.
Totally. And I mean, again, I don't know if this is tech culture or just like the more modern working world that we're in now, right? But like we all kind of live and breathe by our calendar. And when you work across time zones, I have folks in New York, so my same time zone, but also by and large, my company operates on the West Coast. So my 5 o'clock is their 2 o'clock, which, as you can imagine, is less than ideal. However, I've got a time block on my calendar from my 6 p.m. till 8 p.m. that's like mom duty, call if urgent, whatever. And again, that's maybe like the one public facing calendar invite that I have that there's just building in little systems and things like that where it makes other people like pause and think and remember, oh, right, Essie's also a mom. I think it's just you have to find ways to, again, make it on autopilot to a certain degree too.
I love that because I think we talked about on the episode with Devin about how like putting mom first of like it's just like you can't pretend like you're not a mom. And I always feel so guilty doing it. And it is amazing how empowering it is to have somebody respond and be like, yes, yes, like go be with your kid. We can talk about it tomorrow, or this can wait, or like no urgent response. Like people get it. And I think a lot of times I was literally telling a new coworker this the other day. I was like, listen, like it's all of this is doable and attainable. Like you just have to be firm in like what you want. Don't change that, right? Or like we can have a conversation and say, is this something that can be talked about on the playground? Like let's go talk about it with our kids. Or like
I love that.
something that can be talked, spoken about at 8 p.m. tonight after everybody's asleep, or like, does this need to happen right now? And like, we're so scared to do that, I think, because going back to like full circle, what you said before is like, this is something we put on ourselves. Like, so like, let's be nicer to ourselves.
Let's be kinder to ourselves. Yeah.
I was gonna say that too. Like you might even be working. Like there's people that don't respect boundaries, and that's great that you can set them. But like there's a lot of people that are hyper vigilant of them. Like even Ellie and I, like we both obviously have two small children. We have full-time jobs, and it's like we're doing this, and I'm like super sensitive and careful of her time. And like we've developed a relationship quickly where I know that if Ellie's putting the kids to bed or whatever it is, I'm not going to hear from her, and that is a good thing because that makes me confident that I can send anything when I need to.
Yep.
Think about what you might be missing if people that do care about you feel like you're going to jump on something at an inappropriate time, because I'm someone that's mindful of that. So if I feel like you're someone that doesn't set good boundaries, I might not send you something, right? From a work standpoint. Like if I had a colleague who I feel like they might be with their kids this morning, like I know that she's not going to just brush this off. I'll wait till later. Well, I might forget. Right? Or you might not be included in something. So it's another way to like flip that mindset of just like being able to set those boundaries actually makes the people around you more confident in including you in everything that they could possibly include you in terms of work. And I think we have to flip our mindset around. Like the boundary thing is just not a big deal. People respect it and they want you to do it.
Looking back at yourself, what's some advice that you would give to, young women in the workforce? And then honestly, to like young women who are like newly moms or about to be moms? I mean, I was thinking about this the other day, and this has taken a lot of conversations and also a lot of money spent on therapy, if we're being honest. I would go back and like tell myself that like who cares if like stop being so fearful. And I think I've always been very fearful of like what will my parents think? What will my in-laws think? What will all these friends think? Like, and it's like just do something that makes you happy, and like, and if it doesn't work out, like you didn't fail. I think I've been very fearful of failing, and I think that has like slowed me down a lot. And I think I've had a lot, like I have always had a lot of energy, and I've noticed like the past couple of years, and obviously being a young motherhood, it's hard to have a lot of energy in work and do that at the same time. But I've always been like very fearful to make a change. And like I've let that go recently. And it's like so like not only empowering, but like you just feel a little bit lighter. It's very nerve-wracking, but like there is some beauty in just like do it and like who cares? Like, you know,
I feel like
Doing
that's the thing, like everybody that people say, right? It's like there's no such thing as like a good decision, a bad decision, a right decision, a wrong decision. It's just a decision. And like if you find that it's does not serving you or something, it's like you pivot. Like this is all like, it's don't let the fear of that stop you. It's like you just I can get like that too, like hyper fix and like I think too being a mom, like decision fatigue is so real that like then like things that feel like they might rock the boat or whatever, it's like those are the ones that I think we probably obsess over and whatever. And also like Ellie, for you, I mean, it sounds like you've been at this company now for a while and like that's been good for this season of your life, probably the stability that that's given you. And it doesn't mean that like, great, now I'm just stuck here forever. Of course not. People are probably reaching out to you all the time asking you, and like you just have to wait for the right thing to come along.
yeah. Yeah.
You also couldn't tell yourself that. I had the exact same thought as you recently, like, and I'm not gonna lie, like obviously we're on here now, but doing this has been like the cherry on top of me just being like, I don't care anymore. Like this is fun, this is amazing. Like look at the people that I mean, the conversations I'm having, it's been incredible, and I just don't care what anyone's thoughts might be about it. But you couldn't go back to Ellie in her 20s and tell her not to care because she would. I had a soccer coach, and I feel like I've said this to you, but it will stick out in my mind forever. And I
You're
come
not
at people
mature
this
enough to
way.
care. Like you wouldn't grasp onto that in your 20s.
No, I had a
Like,
soccer coach that every time it was raining in high school or whatever it was, he would make us all go run and slide through the biggest mud puddle before the game started, like multiple times. And the thought was, if you're already wet and muddy, you won't even think about play, any ball, anything because you're already soaked and gross and then you're not going to think about it. You are not wet and muddy yet in your 20s. We're not even really compared to what we'll be in 20 years. And that's all it is like once you get a little like it's like once you got punched in the face, like you're not porcelain. Like that's all it is. Like once you get a little like okay, like I'm gonna survive, right? This is gonna be okay, but you can't tell anyone that. You can't tell them like not to think about getting wet in the first play of the game in that puddle. They just have to like kind of get through that first splash.
I love that.
I love that too.
But I give people grace with that. Like new employees and things that I feel like I'm like, I always think about that for people. I'm like, or young, anybody. I'm like, they just don't know yet. They're still being very careful, right? They're still being very cognizant of things that we don't necessarily need to be cognizant of.
Yeah. I don't know if this relates to motherhood, but I think something that I did not fully like step into with confidence until probably my 30s, to your point, Ellie, was just like really, or particularly in the workforce or like in the workplace, showing up just like as my most authentic self. I am Sarah Elizabeth with long blonde hair from the Southeast, went to the University of Alabama, and like love every bit about like that of those pieces of my personality. Moving into New York, into San Francisco, like you kind of stick out like a sore thumb. And I think I tried to minimize myself and fit in a bit more. And again, just like not like use that that is my superpower. I think differently. I may have different instincts. I do have come from a different background to from a lot of folks that I work with on the day to day. So again, I don't think it was still probably like several years into Twitter after I'd, developed a lot of good like relationships and trust within the organization that I felt like safe and comfortable just fully being me. And it's just like it's incredible like what that leads to when you operate like that.
I love that. It was funny when you guys first were talking about having kids early or getting married early. I was thinking like the point that you just made is like you might as well be yourself because whatever room you're in, it's going to be different. Like the town I'm in, I feel like less accomplished because I had kids a little bit earlier and I didn't have my first kid till 30. But like most women that are very accomplished from where I'm from, like they don't really even think about kids till 35 because it's just they're so it's like there's no answer. Like if you're just a little bit different than the people in this room, you're going to be the same as the people in the next room. It's just not worth thinking about. But everybody has their own like you create these ideas of like I'm supposed to be this way or I'm supposed to be that way, and it's like you said, I like what you said. Like once you step into just like no, this is who I am. It's like the best feeling ever. You waste a lot less.
Yeah, there's so much weight that's lifted. Okay, so lightning round. Can we get into lightning round? Okay,
Do it.
awesome. My favorite time. All right. Your favorite coffee order. Your go-to coffee order.
You would have thought I would have prepared a little bit better for this. Honestly, just a plain iced coffee with oat milk and a little Splenda. I am pretty simple these days. Actually, like very recently, I've forced myself to only have 1 cup of coffee in the morning because I only recently came to the conclusion that coffee kind of makes me anxious. And there's like a very fine line between the good level of anxious and like, I'm going to get a bunch of work done today and like existential dread. So trying to
I
toe the line there a little bit better.
I started putting like a Symbiotica as like a, you probably have seen it all over Instagram. I got like influenced, but like some kind of like magnesium something in my coffee that's supposed to like offset that. And I think it works. If anything, it just like adds a little bit of coconut flavor and it's delicious. Okay. So best podcast that you've listened to recently, other than ours, obviously.
Yeah, obviously. Well, it's funny because obviously I work at Patreon and one of our biggest customers is podcasters. So by nature of that, I listen to all different podcasts all of the time. One of the teams I run is our events team. And one of the event types that we often throw is what we call a members only fan event. And so we do those pretty consistently. So I catch myself like whenever the next event is coming up, I like start going really deep on whoever that podcasting group is. And so anyways, tomorrow we are throwing an event in Chicago for a group of 3 guys. They talk about news, politics, a little bit of everything. They're called Vibe Check. So if you haven't heard of them, they're very, very fun and easy listen. They also talk about really hard topics, but in the most approachable kind of way where I feel like I'm learning something. It's challenging my point of view, making me think differently. That's kind of the types of podcasts I gravitate to just in general. I mean, I think probably we all do, but it's always ever changing. But Vibe Check for right now.
I love that. First of all, love the name Vibe Check. I'm going to have to check them out. Okay. So one mom moment that made you laugh or cry this week.
My goodness, Bright is the funniest little kid, honestly. She is really, really good at playing pretend in a way that, like, you only have like so many core memories growing up when particularly when you're like that age. Like, I don't remember being really good at playing pretend. I remember kind of like having the Barbie dolls and the baby dolls, but I kind of just like to have them or like collect them, but I don't remember actively playing with them and using the accessories and whatever. But right, like plays with her baby dolls. She plays with her kitchen because she's an only child. She often requires one of us to play with her. We're not great at the independent part of that quite yet. But yesterday, where it was bath time, and we were in her playroom playing before, and I'm like, okay, it's a few minutes. We need to go play bath. She goes, okay, let's just play one more game before that. And I go, okay, what do you want to play? She said, let's play Sweetheart. I said, what is Sweetheart? She goes, you be my sweetheart and I'll be the mama. I know, it was just like the sweetest, most pure. Like, she doesn't have the word for like, let's play pretend, let's play mommy and baby, let's play whatever it is, make believe.
So
Let's
sweet.
play Sweetheart because my husband and I probably call her, I guess we call her Sweetheart all the time, which now I'll become acutely aware of. But that was like one of the more precious moments of my week.
I love that. And I do feel like when random stuff like that happens, it's validating. Oh, she sees how much we love her. Yeah, I love that. What do you think your favorite thing about this stage of life is?
Goodness.
I know these are hard.
No, it's a good one though. I mean, I feel truly like your 30s are just kind of the best. I feel so much more confident in who I am, who I want to be, what I have control over, what I don't have control over. Having a kid, like I said, makes you ruthlessly prioritize, but ultimately in a really, really good way. Like, it makes you rein it in and get really clear on just, yeah, who you are, how you want to spend your time, your energy, what fills your cup up, what depletes you. Like, I don't feel like I've ever been in another like phase or season of life where I felt more clear on Sarah Elizabeth and like what I want, like what makes me happy right now. Yeah, that's what I would say about that.
That was an awesome last
I
question.
love that.
Yeah, I do too. I feel like that's so motivating and I completely agree. So thank you for coming on today. I have like 700 questions that I still want to ask you. So we keep saying we're going to do like follow-ups because I feel like more conversations we have, the more questions I have for all of our guests. But thank you for coming on. You're so inspiring watching you navigate through working motherhood, and you've been so steadfast in it all is so fun to watch. So thank you for coming on. I know everyone else enjoyed this conversation just as much as we did. So follow Sarah Elizabeth on LinkedIn, Instagram. We can't wait to see what you're doing with Patreon. I mean, it's already amazing how much you've kicked off.
This was so fun, y'all.